Camera speed, slate, take one. Everflow podcast with Harley James Dixon.
Hey.
Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us for this very special episode. We have the opportunity to talk to Harley, who is a dear friend of ours and an amazing artist that we've had the opportunity to work with and collaborate with. And I got the opportunity to meet in person for the first time only like 2 weeks ago. That's right. After a year and a half of working together, I think. And this conversation is just going to be us sharing behind the scenes of our artistic journey together, behind the scenes of the music, behind the scenes of the songs that have been released, the ones that we're working on right now, and kind of what's to come on your artistic journey. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's open up the floor and let's start by like you officially introducing yourself to us and to the people and kind of giving a little bit of like your...
Who is you?
Yeah, who is you?
Who am I as an artist? Well, I'm Harley James Dixon. I listen to so much. So my artistry blends across, singing, across dancing, acting, being a choreographer, being a visionary and a director. And and I love to express myself in all of those different forms. But when I get to combine them is when I feel like the most like a vessel. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I truly love when I'm on stage and I'm performing and people come up and they're like, wow, I was really impacted by your performance. And I think it's because it's so genuine for me. I get on stage and the best way that I can describe it is that it feels like a light beam coming from like my head chakra and then exploding out of like my heart chakra every single time that I perform. And I just like love losing myself in that light. So, yeah.
I love that. So real quick origin story. Let's start off like even just as a kid.
Yeah.
What was some of the first ways that your artistry started revealing itself, whether in dancing or in music or a combination of those things ever since you were a kid?
Yeah. I started singing and dancing like in church and even from like a young age. My mom got me these river dance tapes. And
is that like the Celtic one?
Yeah. She got me these river dance tapes and I was obsessed. Oh my God. Like you have to talk to my mom because she loves telling the story of like how I would like go into the hallway. We had like this flooring in the like this entryway in our house. And I would go and like slip on her shoes so I could like imitate tap shoes. And then I'd go.
That's awesome.
And like wrap my head in like one of her scarves, like they looked on TV and stuff. And it was crazy. She loves telling that story. I'm like, please, you can't tell that. But I think it's a really dope part of my artistry because, at least for me growing up in that time, I think my generation just had an appreciation for that like type of art, like it didn't take too much to engage us in the story. Like even like Tom and Jerry, they didn't speak like the majority of, you know what I mean? And so like a lot of shows were like that. Even like what Bob Ross, I think, was like the painter. You guys remember that? Mm-hmm. And he would just get on and we would watch him paint in pretty much silence, but that's the generation. And so like a lot of that art was just music and like the performative art. And that's definitely seeped into who I am as an artist.
Yeah. And so you started dancing first and then was singing part of your church experience as well?
Yeah. My aunt, before she passed, she like would teach me all of the hymns and stuff. And I would get up on Sunday morning.
Come on, Harley.
Yeah. And I would start singing and stuff. And they're like, oh, great. Yeah. Keep going, baby. Like,
yeah.
That's awesome.
That's all right. But,
now, was it primarily church that you were singing and dancing, or was there other avenues growing up as well?
Yeah. I didn't really know that it was something that I wanted to do with the rest of my life until maybe about sophomore year of high school. But I had been singing and dancing and taking like lessons and like that entire time. But around sophomore year of high school, I got the opportunity to perform with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. Like he was going on tour and he had collected children at the time from... That sounds really weird.
Just keep going with the sentence. Just keep going with the sentence.
But
for creative use.
For creative use.
In a commercial format.
Yeah, that's
With parental
hilarious.
consent.
No, I
Oh,
swear.
man, that's funny.
But yeah, he was like, getting kids to join in on his performance.
Yeah.
And I just remember going to like the Palace of Auburn Hills. It was like this big arena back at home, and just like performing for like that sold out crowd of like, I want to say like 70,000 plus people.
Whoa.
Wow.
How old are you?
I was like, had to be 14, 15, 16 range.
Youngster.
Right?
That's intense.
And I was like, I got off that stage and I was like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I loved that.
More of that,
More
please.
of that, please.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love how our origin stories come from the roots of our childhood, a lot of us do, right? And how the little things that happen to us here and there along the path that kind of bump us along the way end up being the reason we become who we are today.
Right.
And I love that you've had dancing. You also have acting experience, right?
Yeah.
What was that? In college, you were taking college?
Yeah,
acting classes?
absolutely. I really dove into it in college and started to refine. There was this one, we had a guest artist come in. I can't remember his name at the time, but he really dropped one single statement that sort of changed me as an actor forever. And it was just like, find the truth. Like, and it was so simple. Like, obviously, that should be very obvious, but the way that he said it and when he said it, I was able to absorb it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a very deep and profound way. It just registered with me and it affected my artistry, not just as an actor, but everything else. It was like, find the truth in it and find it quickly. You know what I mean? Like, and let
Don't fuss around.
Don't fuss around, and like, make this character a real human being. Let it be someone who is lived in, and everybody's walk and journey in life is worth expressing and worth telling their story. You know what I mean? Like, no matter if you're like this grand superstar or like you're the humble farmer. You know what I mean? Like, people are living their lives, and there are people that we'll never meet, but their stories are still worth telling.
Yeah. I feel like we've gotten deep in the first 5 minutes, and I love it.
It's awesome. I mean, I feel like that what you're speaking about is like the root of your artistry.
Yeah.
And in a way, the home base, I feel like for so many of us creatives, being able to tap into that home base of like where things started, where that initial like, that's possible?
Right.
Like going to that now, years down the line, creating more art is like it stemmed from that root.
Absolutely.
Like I remember for me, Bob McFerrin, when I saw him perform when I was 10 years old, I was like, you can do that?
Yeah. That makes so much sense for you as an artist. And just what I've been able to experience about you.
Totally.
Yeah.
His performance, again, the first time seeing a beatboxer, like that's humanly possible.
Right.
And I feel like that's a thing that's like amazing when you have either supportive parents or friends or a community that either see something in you and it's like, hey, try this out, explore this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you don't know till you know. Like you had no clue that you could perform and actually get paid, and that could be a job. Or,
right. Yeah.
I had a high school music teacher that impacted me. When you're talking about who impacts you, it's like the community, the family, your friends, and sometimes even your mentors and teachers, right? They can hit you with these things that are thoughts that forever are implanted in your mind, and you're like, wow. And one of my high school teachers told me, like, one day he pulled me into the office, and he knew I was playing a lot of guitar and singing at the time, and he just got really serious with me. He's like, dude, there's a lot of people out there making money right now, like but you're not out there. Why aren't you out there?
Yeah.
And I just remember him like hitting me with that, and that was before I was gigging, but it just, little seeds that are part of the guidance for us to get to where we ultimately are nowadays. And I'm so grateful for the mentors and the teachers that give those gifts to us, even our family members.
Teachers don't get enough credit.
Yeah. I think they're beautiful and grateful for that. And, the smallest moment that could be nothing to them can be something life-changing to you,
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel like it's a beautiful thing as us, as creators, as we move forward, as we give back. Like, it's a beautiful opportunity to remember that the way that we've been impacted, we have the opportunity to impact people in that way as well. And
not to take it for granted.
And like the way that Bobby McFerrin lit up your world is like one day, hopefully, we'll be like that for some younger, up and coming generation.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a beautiful thing. So, let's talk about the origin of this collaboration between the three of us, and where did it come from, and how was it born, and you know, and like where you were in that phase of your life that I remember you were reached out to Tones like, hey, I want to make some music, kind of like that. So tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, Antonio and I, we met like doing Festival of the Lion King. When?
It's 2017, I think.
2017.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like October 2017 is when I started Lion King.
Wow.
Not
yeah.
crazy. Wild.
But yeah, it was just, and we got to see each other like very quickly, like in and out, you know, like.
Yeah.
You know,
it was like, hey, how's it going? Yeah.
but we didn't really get to spend as much time together as I would have liked. But, you know, yeah. And then we had never met until a couple of weeks ago.
In person.
I
right. Remember Tones came up one day back when we were still in Orlando, and he's like, I think this is how I remember. So this is where I need your help to retell the story. But it's like, hey, I have a friend named Harley. He wants to talk about us producing some music for him. Yeah. And I think we scheduled a Zoom call or like a phone call. And then that was the initial workings. And I remember that we listened to your voice notes, your voice recordings, particularly of SMR, maybe like a few other ones, but
I think it was the whole EP.
Oh, the whole EP.
On that whole Zoom call, we listened down and like we're giving you active feedback in the middle of like, come on.
Yes. Via Zoom. And I feel like you were in Michigan. I feel like
I was in Toronto.
Even better. You were even further. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Toronto.
I remember that first Zoom call, and we were all vibing out, and you had the vision of doing your full 5-song EP from the get. Excuse me, I got to take this, Mr. President. I'm not. And that's where our collaboration was born from. So we had that Zoom call, and you were like, "This is what I want to do." And Tones and I think that was right after or right around when we were finishing up our project with Heather, timeline wise.
Yeah.
And so like we had just gone, Tones and I, through that process, and we were really excited to be able to do it again. So super grateful for you for coming to us and trusting us to be able to take your vision and bring it to life. And it was cool because it was a season where Tones and I, we were gaining momentum in our business, in our teamwork, in our goals, in our dreams. You know, I don't even know if we weren't even thinking about moving to LA when we started that project, but here we are. It's amazing how all three of us are now living here from a place where we didn't even get the chance to meet. And then I remember the first thing that we addressed was SMR, right? That was the first one that we chose. And that was the first project that we dove into creatively. And we're like, let's get this done.
Slow-mo rewind.
Yes, slow-mo rewind. The acronyms of all the projects.
Right.
SMR. Yeah. So let's talk about SMR. Let's talk about how that came to be and some of the energy behind it. You know, what was your intention behind it when you were writing the song?
Yeah.
Because, you know, one of my favorite things about your artistry, if I may, is like your writing is a little bit unconventional to me. And you've even said it, right? You're like, sometimes I'm a little wordy sometimes. But I do love the energy and the essence of it, because I almost feel like there's parts of your, like maybe the choreography kind of inspires some of the rhythms. And I just love that SMR was like this hilarious day. The jokes are all mine. And it just keeps going the rest of the song. I'm a getter, I'm a fighter, I'm gonna do it all night, I'm gonna relax. Tell us about SMR. Tell us about where that came from.
You know, it really was a song that it started this reflection, this inner, this self-reflection on my journey and the things that I loved about myself and the things that I didn't like. And I really just wanted to own up to like everything. You know, I had sort of gotten to a place in my life where I was just tired of like living up to the potential, or like, you know, of people talking about, oh yeah, one day, you know, one day we see that for you, one day. And I was just like, when is one day gonna be now? Like what do I have to do to play my part in that, you know? Well, first of all, you have to like own up the parts of yourself that are not so pretty, You know what I mean? To be able to not only walk into your blessing, but then be able to hold space and keep them. You know, at least that's what I view as my opinion. But like, yeah, and I just remember like writing that song from just a place of like, okay, we're gonna own all of the ish, and we're gonna own everything. And like, I just remember starting it off like hilariously, like all of these things that, well, not all of them, but like some of these things that have affected my life were things that I caused, you know what I mean? And things that I could have acted, you know, differently and treated people a little bit better, or like treated myself a little bit better in those moments. And yeah, hilariously, the jokes are all mine. And then like one choice, you know, is truly what will send you off into just propelling your life into the direction that you either want or you don't want. And you have to be conscious about those decisions. But like also just really harnessing this energy of not moving, you know, for fear of making the wrong step. And I think I was in that space for so long that I had gotten comfortable in that space, you know, that we were best friends, like in that space of just like, I would rather have not produced anything for the sake of it not coming out exactly how I wanted it to, you know, or, you know, and like for certain things there, you still want to uphold your standards of excellence and like in your craft, but like also you have to give, you know, some room to yourself to like make mistakes and learn along the way. And so I just remember like writing that song and getting done with that. I was like, okay. And then I heard Kiana's song, which is another friend from Lion King. I was like, oh my gosh, this song is dope. Like,
Yeah.
And Kiana sings down anyway. But like, and I was so like, good. But this production goes off. Who is this? And then I hit up Kiana, and she's like, oh, it's Antonio and David. And I was like, oh, I need to get in touch with them immediately, like yesterday.
Nice.
And
that's the connection.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I remember like also just making the demos for you guys. I was spending so much time just like, oh my gosh, I really hope that they like this stuff. Like, you know, because I also at that time, I knew that I was a songwriter, and I knew that I was an artist, but I didn't really have that validation, for a lack of a better word, of someone seeing the potential in my artistry enough to invest in it. You know what I mean? Enough to really get with the plan and amplify what I'm trying to do with their own gifts. And so I just remember playing it for you guys and how hype the voice note goes, you know, and you guys are like, I hear it.
Dude,
and
that's such like, I so far when producing for artists, it's been very rare for me to like hear clearly the production behind what it is that you're singing, the songwriting, the melody, the rhythmic choices. Like, I'm like, oh man, like I wish I could produce as I'm listening to it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how like sometimes when you're in like either you just wake up from a dream or from sleeping, or like you're about to go to sleep and you hear like a whole song like flow through. Right. Like that's how I felt like I heard the production flowing just with you singing it. So for me, it was like an easy choice to be able to, as you said, amplify what it is that you had going on, and for David and I to give it our best shot of really exploring that possibility. Because I'm like, for me, it's one of those things of like, oh, it's just writing itself. It's just listening to that divine creative flow, and it's like the flow that you're going through. It's like, all right, cool, let's just join that river flow, and just go with it and create what we've created so far. And I was really excited hearing that. I'm like, oh snap!
Yeah, every single one of the voice notes was like that. You did such a good job painting the picture for us with the claps and the snaps and the background vocal parts and the vocal parts and all of it, man. And I feel like we even at some point used a piece of your recording in the actual slow-mo rewind. Some of those original like lower fi recordings, demo recordings, like made into the track.
Yeah, I did at the end of slow-mo rewind. I did the combo of like, honestly, like the vibe was there because of your demo, and then I sussed out all samples that I added into the track and like reverse things and everything to the grid of what you did.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of a relationship combo between it's like rewind, all that type of stuff.
Pause.
So yeah, pause, play. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome. That was fun.
And something that I really enjoyed too about that creative process was like it was you gave us a lot to work with, and it was also at the same time a very much blank slate.
Yeah,
because we didn't know. It could be anything. And, thanks to the calls that we had and the conversation that we had, and like, okay, so what are your influences and what are the ideas that you have? And how do you want to feel when you're listening to it? How do you want the person to feel when they're listening to it? Like through that, it's really fun just being able to listen to the original vocal demo and then seeing where the song ended up, because it was just the power of collaboration, the power of all of us communicating vision together, making sure that we were all aligned in that vision together, good feedback, left turn, right turn, keep going straight kind of thing. And especially I think about the bridge. When we were coming up to the bridge, we had created the parts for everything basically except for the bridge. And we were like, what the heck are we what are we going to do here?
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember Tones and I having like a few sessions where we were just doing the best we could to like visualize and like our own thing. It's like, okay, so this is, what if it's like a space vibe and you're kind of like, you come up above the clouds for a moment and then you're up here shining and then like and back to the final chorus, right? Like literally conversations we were having. Tones is like, got it. And it just unfolded so cool. And even the breakdown dance section where we're doing the high vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All of that. Again, so much fun. One of the things I like to remind myself of is the creative process is a journey that you get to the end of the journey by trusting that every step that you take on the journey is there for a reason. And sometimes you take a step forward, sometimes you take steps back. Sometimes you have to like restart something that you spent days working on. Sometimes you have to zoom out, big picture,
Right.
Sometimes you have to weather an uncertain period of like, we don't know how to do this part. But like, just trust that as you keep figuring it out, you'll get to the other side of that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm so grateful for. And it's something that, in the song we experienced because that bridge section was so unique. We're like, how the heck are we going to do it? And then we listen back to it and like, wow, how did we even get there? From like 0 to 100, where is it at? And how did we get there? And the only answer I ever have really is just learning that every step in that process is for a reason, and trust every idea that comes, listen to it, give it a try, because they're ultimately the building blocks upon which the song comes to life, whether or not you can hear those building blocks in the song or not,
Totally. Absolutely.
And I'm a big fan of that. And one of the things that we did too was that you were long distance. Like we didn't get a chance to do that final vocal together.
Right.
And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Didn't you record some of the vocals on your cruise ship?
I did.
Come on. That's right.
Because I was working on the cruise ship at the time.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. From even like the moment that I played you the demos, I was like, I think it was a night before I had to be in rehearsals the next day.
Wow.
Back in Toronto before we got on the ship, and then we got on the ship and we were still making it happen. Like I don't think people really understand, because they see the final product, which is this amazing song that we've like created, and like all of this stuff, but like they don't see like the nights of sacrifice, the days I was just getting off a port, running to a Starbucks with Wi-Fi.
Right.
Yeah. Upload the files.
Uploading the files.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about it, because it's an opportunity to peel back the curtain and just like for people to actually see what is it that kind of went into it.
Absolutely.
I remember when we had the conversation of like, all right, so if this is the date that we want to get it done by, and we're not going to be able to see each other at all until after the release date, what do we have to do to get there? And one of them was like the gear conversation. Yeah, we're like, this is the gear that you need to buy, and you were like, bet, let's go. And piece by piece, you ordered it, and I think you even had it delivered to the ship.
I did.
Dang,
that's so cool,
How'd you
man.
do that?
I was getting it delivered like right back to Toronto for some of the stuff, and then I think I went and picked up my my computer like a day off in port, that we had like the morning off to be back on the ship by like 1 p.m. or something like that.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on, Harley. Dedicated to the cause, man. That's amazing.
Persistent.
And I love that's what makes the first song of our collaboration special, I feel.
Yeah.
Because we were able to connect and bond, especially you and I, because of the never having met before, you know?
Right.
But like when we first met here, it felt like I already knew you.
Yeah.
And it felt like, oh, okay, this is great. Like this is only the third time we get to hang out in person, I feel like, almost.
Yeah.
But it's great because it's not really, thanks to technology, we've had the opportunity to send voice notes, to Zoom call, and to get to know each other intimately through the creative process of making SMR, making Christmas Countdown. We hadn't even met yet.
Right.
And nice to meet you. Officially. But I think that's also something special too. When we talk about the power of teamwork, when we talk about like trusting each other enough to be vulnerable, trusting each other enough to see someone else's vision through, even if it's not something that you might not be connecting with at the time, but you trust them and you trust the team. And I think that's something we should talk about. Let's talk about that aspect of the creative process together, where we all three have our own ideas and what it's like for each one of us.
Absolutely.
Being in that space.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm going back to the fact of like there was so much to go off of from the initial jump. Mm-hmm. If there wasn't, I feel like it'd be like, oh, okay, we got to dig deep to like truly, genuinely innovate and create something from scrickety scratch.
Yeah.
But there's so much to go off of. Like even for the bridge, even though it was like sonically, where do we want to go? I felt like I could hear like the chords that you were doing. Because again, I've done years of music theory, years of vocal jazz. I'm not a music theory aficionado, but those were like dusty in the back corner of my mind.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh yeah, that chord progression. Give me 1 second. I think I know where you're at. So at least on the where to start, that helped a lot. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I feel like David and I have been figuring out in our production process, like there are certain tracks that you make day of that it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Keep it as is.
Yeah.
And there's other things that it just takes time, and it takes like, oh, I'm confident. This is absolutely the path. And you take 7 steps that direction to realize, okay, that full day of editing or anything in that one direction actually isn't the way. And the more that we ignore the signs to turn, the more it's a disservice. And it's feeding our ego, and therefore a complete disservice to the full longevity and the impact of the project. So being able to tap back and it's just like, okay, redirect the ultimate way to be able to serve and align, because then we get to where we're at now.
Yeah.
Which part of that process as well is like the way in which we highly appreciate attending to every detail. We don't ever want to like, yeah, sure, we'll get to that, and never attend a particular detail that like especially matters to you. Yeah. So that's why we ask for your notes, your thoughts, your input, your inspiration, because we genuinely want to do the best that we can to like bring that to fruition through our own inspiration and combo teamwork. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely, I'm learning more and more about like the genuine hard work of creating something. It ain't always that like, oh man, I'm inspired and in the flow. It happens, that's great. Right. But sometimes at least for me, I realize like, especially that last 5% that feels so mechanical and not inspirational for me. Yeah. But is so needed to finish a project. It's like that's where tapping into as much resourcefulness as possible pays so much dividends, because like that's what closes that gap. And well, again, I'm grateful for the teamwork, because it's like even little things that like genuinely no one's really gonna notice at all. And David's like, let's get to that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Let's do it.
But you guys know, it's like the same thing with like actors that, I don't know, they'll like wear a certain sock or something that you'll never see under like a petticoat or something like that. But like, it makes the difference.
It's the essence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
It's the invisible, intangible essence.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I've realized too, those little nuances are what, like that small thing of like, I like that track. Like that, in my opinion, comes from the detailed work of ensuring there's not a little like guitar squawk that sticks out of the track and now distracts the singer from what's going on.
Right.
Or a vocal end of phrase that's too quiet and then it gets back to, and it's like, no, let's attend to everything. That way it's like, that way all of us can listen to the track and like we're watching a scene from a movie for the first time ever. It's just like, oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it feels so fresh and new because there's nothing left on the table. There isn't the like, that's good enough. And then listen back, man, I really wish I did X, Y, Z. And it's like, no.
And I appreciated like that level of detail, even like when we were recording vocals and you were like, giving me notes on like how to make it better and how to like what did you want dynamically here, and just asking questions like that I either like hadn't thought about, or something that would just elevate the song to where we knew it could go. You know what I mean? And also, I just think that like our collaboration has taught me so much about being a successful collaborator. Like, I wish it was like a class that I could just like, pour into other people. How you guys, like, I really have learned so much about healthy collaborating. Because I feel like we give so much space to each other anyway, you know what I mean? But like in the creative process, we're like, well, let's try this and let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll know, like we'll feel it, and we'll stop and address it then, you know what I mean? But like, I love the space. It really provides for that vulnerability. And because then you can be messy and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you hear that one thing and you're like, I like that. It anchors. That idea anchors something, and we should stick with that and branch out from there.
Totally.
So yeah, and I remember even for like vocals on Christmas Countdown, like Antonio was like, yo, try this. And I was like recording those high notes all morning. And I was like, bro, I don't have any more juice to give you for these notes. Please, just one of these takes.
Just tell me it worked.
Just tell me one of these takes, please. but I appreciate you so much, like, for like that attention to detail and challenging me in my gift and refining me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I believe like makes for just amazing collaboration, but like also just knowing you as people, like it pours out into the art that we're making together. So
yeah, appreciate that, bro.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's there really is like, yes, this is a job, but what we're doing is so much deeper, and the purpose of which all of us are doing this is something that just like double and triple resonates and makes this such a fruitful experience for us, and makes it a fruitful experience, I know, for the listeners. And I now know more and more that even outside of the listeners for this music, people who just witness the creative process will just get a glimpse of something they either haven't experienced in a while, or haven't noticed or heard or felt or reflected on. So I know that there's like what I like to call like an undercurrent of like, if we honor the daily work of that creative flow, however that unfolds, if it's 1% or if it's 85%, we have no idea, seeing that through, who that can impact.
Yeah.
Of randomly telling someone like, hey, so what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on a music project. Oh, you do music? And it's like, if you shut down that whole thing, that whole day never happened.
Right.
You know? So honoring that flow, I don't know. I'm just super intrigued by the power in showing up with a full and open heart and passion and a purpose.
Yeah.
Because here we are in LA.
But that was even in the initial talks that we had about the entire batch of music, but just like how we wanted to like really have it be a universal art, you know what I mean? And have like everybody be able to put themselves in the story, you know? And that's always been important to me in my artistry, you know? And I just remember like growing up how badly I needed that, you know what I mean? And I wasn't able to find it as readily accessible as I would have liked, you know? But I make it a mission of mine in my art to make sure that like whoever you are from whatever background, you know what I mean? Like you can put yourself into these shoes of the story that we're trying to tell. So, yeah.
It's awesome.
So I have a question about, this was your first release as an artist.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the conversations we had post-release, like of that feeling, of that energy, of the validation, of being able to show it to your mom and your mother's reaction.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience and that season and that whatever accompanied it.
It was so cool. I remember like even back to getting the cover art together, because I was like, okay, the energy of the song, it's gotta match or else it's gotta be on pause. But like I wanted everything to match. And we had stopped in Icy Strait Point, Alaska, and I was like, what if we just take it here? You know, like it would be so cool. Like the natural landscaping gives this energy that I was really desiring. You look at it and it's just like moving you. You're like engaged. You know what I mean? It's living, and I loved that. And then and I just remember like putting it out, and I went and told my mom, I was like, Mom, I put that song out today. And she was like, oh, did you? And I played it for her. And I think all of the years of knowing that I was a songwriter, knowing that I was an artist, and then her hearing like the incredible detail and the excellence in the time that we took, you know what I mean, to craft this. She was hearing it and processing it, and when she got done, she was just like, this is really good. And it was like the most objective, you know what I mean? Like outside of me being your mom, outside of me being, you know what I mean? Like supporting you, like this is actually good. Like, and I was like, I know, like it eats down, doesn't it? It's so dope. But it was so incredibly validating just to like hear everybody. And then she went and like, played it for everybody. She was sending it to everyone.
Like mamas do.
We're like mamas do.
Yep.
Check this out. This is my son.
This is my baby.
Look at him. That's my baby. My baby.
But it was so nice. And then my peers in the industry were also listening to the song. And I just remember like how much respect I was getting that day and how much it meant to me. I was like, finally, after all of this time of being a songwriter, I got spoken to by two separate, like preachers that did not know each other, and they spoke songwriting over my life. And whether whatever your belief is, it's still that word of just like this sort of divine energy being spoken over your life, and you falling into, this is something that is meant for me, and what was crazy about it is those people didn't know each other, and they came on different accounts at different times, and they were like, you're going to be a songwriter. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know you. You're like, what? But what was crazy about it was like, I did wake up in the middle of the night, like with a pen and pad ready to like write. And of course you start off and the songs aren't really that fire yet.
I love my dog.
Right.
My dog is nice.
Exactly. But and I think that was also part of the joy of it, of really refining my gift, because I've always loved that in every area of my talents, of like, how can we really chip away at this until it's something that like I can do, it's second nature, you know what I mean? And like, how do we keep pushing it? And so it was just an amazing day. The day that we put that out, I was so grateful. I think I cried like forever. It was just like out of tears by the end of the day, but it was so meaningful. It was so incredibly meaningful to me. And it just meant so much for my future, because I was just like, all of that potential now, like it's starting. Like I've hit that wall. I'm going through it. I'm making the choice. You know what I mean? And I liked that I was making the choice, that I wasn't sitting on it anymore, you know? And that meant something to me. So...
And it's true, because now we've gotten together and had this conversation about the next chapter.
Yeah.
And like you shared with us all the writing that you've been doing and all the kind of like, what was it, like almost like a download, kind of like with the new songs that are coming up in this next season.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing that you're tapping in and flowing and showing up too. I think I'd love to talk too about like how it isn't always perfect and it ain't always pretty.
Yeah.
And especially as creatives and artists in this world, sometimes we have to be very resilient and very connected to our support systems, because it can be challenging at times, personal challenges, like the reason why you moved to LA, let's talk a little bit about that, about some of the challenges that you've kind of experienced on the way, but also where they've led you.
Yeah. I used to live out here in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. I lived out here. And then the pandemic hit, and, everybody was sent home or like back with loved ones or something like that. But I pretty much all my life I was trying to get to California. Just had this, I don't know, it was like birds flying south, like a divine instinct.
They're just going home.
Yeah. And I had been like talking about it all of my childhood. And even to the point where my mom, she was just like, if we lived out there, like you'd be on like those, I'd make sure that you'd have, I was like, thank you. Well, now I have to be out there, But, this second time around, I just knew that I wanted it to be me and God. I wanted it, because I just filled it up the first time with a lot of clutter from outside sources, whether that was just what people believed I should be doing at the time, or like whether it was like attaching myself to the wrong people in the wrong environment, or something that was moving me sideways for the sake of movement's sake, but not moving me forward. And this year has been about what's going to move me forward. Even like last year, as we were creating Slow Mo Rewind, I was swinging, and that was the first time that I was a swing, and it was scary, like, and I was being challenged every day, and that entire year was really about being uncomfortable, and I found that all of the growth that has mattered to me has been in those uncomfortable moments. And like, so I'm attaching myself to people who are also like stepping out into their like uncomfort zone, you know what I mean? And really challenging themselves, you know what I mean? And yeah, I guess that's what's been important to me. And so I knew that I had to get back out here, because that's what was calling me. And then you guys moved, and I was like, oh, it's definitely calling me. Like, I have to be there. And I wanted to specifically make the next batch of music with you guys in person. And just have it elevate our sound even more. You know what I mean? Just having like that in-person relationship.
Immediacy of connection.
Yeah.
Like literally in the room together.
Which I feel like it's already done, like off of what we're working on already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
like I was thinking it was just going to be like a flight out here. Like, let's work like in person. Let's make it happen. And then you can fly back to Orlando.
Yeah.
Like, how about I'll live here? That's like, bet.
No, for real.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, oh, it was looking like it wasn't going to happen. And I feel like the second that I let go of the reins of how I wanted it to happen, the divine flow stepped in and was like, okay, are you done? Because I'm ready to do it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just need you to let go and like change your perspective on a lot of different things. Just because you're seeing it one way and it doesn't happen that one way doesn't mean that it's not for you. Like you could still have that, but there's a different way for you to go about it. You know what I mean? And even just like traveling here over those 4 days, I did like a drive 4 days in my car. And I'm no stranger to like road trips and everything like that. But this was the first time me driving like 16 plus hours by myself. And I felt so centered. You know what I mean? The entire way. I was just like, I wish, I could have captured every moment of every single day and how I was just being covered. You know what I mean? Like even on the road, like I would stop and then like just miss an accident barely. You know what I mean? And I got here safely in one piece and in divine protection. You know? And I was like, I feel so seen. I feel so protected. I feel exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's a push. I had to decide, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to chase after it relentlessly, but I'm going to do it, And when I got here, I was so proud of myself for not giving up on myself. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of people, I don't know their stories. Like they get there and they're like, at least for me, I had given up. There were plenty of times that I had given up. I had tossed in the towel on singing. I was like, the doors are not opening the way that I want them to open. I'm done. I'm tired of being told no. I'm over it. And then the second that I decided that, it seemed like all of the singing opportunities started showing up. And I was like, what is going on? And I had to gradually open myself back up to that as well, and sort of get my voice back, which is really translated in this journey of music up into what we're creating now. And I feel like even this next batch of music and this continuation of the stories that, I'm wanting to tell is that voice, like really being definitive in this era and chapter of my life.
It's powerful, man.
Harley, take us there, bro. Take us there.
I feel a very similar powerful alignment in the drive from Orlando to here.
Yeah.
And I remember after about like a week and a half, I was like, man, I wish I could just like bottle up the visceral like life experience that just happened.
Yeah.
In 2 days, like everything that I owned was handled and put in a truck or sold or given. It's like, boom, and we're driving.
Yeah.
And it required a whole new level of self-accountability to keep it going. And then with following through on that, reaping the reward.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I was telling David, like, I would have like a deja vu, like
Every 14 minutes.
Right.
yo, it was pretty gnarly.
So I was just I'm having deja vu again. I'm like, again, bro? I'm like, are you okay? Are you hydrated? And then I had deja vu once. I'm like, Tones, it's happening. Me too. Me too. It's happening.
Yeah. And it's just like, for me, it's like, again, like those signs, like, I don't know how much any of that means, but I do know that there was what felt like where time can be viewed as linear, birth to death. Or the way I was seeing it is like some type of like circle where it's like wherever you're born in that, there's like at whatever age, there's like a dream that you have that's like at that point, whatever age or time that is. And like at some point, there's like a reflection point that's like a deja vu of like, oh yeah, that like connection piece.
Wow.
And like when you achieve that, it's like, oh yeah. And that's when you can connect the dots.
Yeah.
Like there's that type of like reflection bounce, like I feel like I've been here before. Or
That's
like
beautiful.
I feel like there's some type of like seeing that in that circle, like seeing it in the mirror and being like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen if you didn't actually follow through on it. And so for me, that's like power.
Yeah.
In that alignment.
I love that we all share that experience of like letting go of a place and moving somewhere because of something that was on our hearts, some dream, some vision, some purpose that we felt called towards. And I very much share that like recognition of like how God plays a big part of it. And how he, for me, my experience has been like what you said, like stopping just before an intersection, just barely missing kind of accident kind of stuff. Like that has been something that I've experienced in my life. And thank God I've been able to understand like, wow, these pieces actually, it might feel random, but it really isn't. It isn't. And I think one of the beautiful things is allowing yourself to kind of like step into that awareness and like take it for truth and like go with it. Because on the drive, like Tones and I having a conversation across the country, and there was
imagine these podcasts just every 5 minutes,
and then a lot of silence. We had a great amount of silence too. It was kind of nice, but then like we would say something, we're having this deep moment, and then like Tones looks out the left and there's a billboard, and I forget what the billboard said, but it hit so hard addressing literally what we were talking about that I was like, yo, come on.
Yeah. There's something along the lines of like, like I really don't know how I'm gonna like figure out this next chapter. It's a big mystery. Like I don't really know. And like turned to a sign and it said something along the lines of like, no matter what, you'll find your way through it.
Yeah, and then I think it was like an eagle on it too, right?
Something like that. Yeah, like you're flying. You're finding your way. Like you'll fly or whatever. Something like that. Like some way you'll soar or something like that.
And it was
just like,
like not your average billboard. Like that was the only one we ever saw like that the whole time.
Wow.
Man.
And I think that's something that's been a really powerful lesson in my life is like letting God be a part of the flow and like tapping into what is already there and the beauty of being able to, if you need it and if you want it, it's there for you. And sometimes I've known in my own life, the times when I've been most lost is when I've refused to look at it in that way, you know?
Yeah.
But this whole experience of moving to Los Angeles has been one grace moment to the next, you know? And like me as a bumbling, fumbling, stumbling human trying to make my way through the dark when it's like, all you got to do is like lift your head above the clouds and it's there, man. And all of a sudden things change perspective wise. Like the bad things aren't so bad anymore because they're serving a purpose. The good things are part of the path, but they're not going to define your worth. You know what I mean? So I love that we've all had these kind of our own experiences, our own kind of connection to that, to whatever that is for us. But also letting it be a part of the purpose and the thing that is driving us forward, you know, into this next batch of music, next batch of music into, you know, you've started your career in an incredible way and there's so much more to come. And I love the saying of the best is yet to come because it really is. And one last thing that I thank you guys for just time together. It's been awesome getting to talk and like just it's something I've been experiencing is the what is an artist? What does it really mean to be an artist? You know, like the world paints a picture and then YouTube paints another one and Wikipedia says this, but like let's take a little bit of time, each of one of us, and kind of share what that means to us, as broad, as zoomed in as you want to make it, however you want it. I can start. Go for it. Yeah. and because I brought it up, I've just been learning, like for me, like artistry has carried a lot of weight to it, but like in almost like a not good way, where it's like pressure, responsibility. Like I have to do this. I have to write these songs. I have to put them out there. It's something I have to do, you know? And I've just been learning and kind of even having a more healthy relationship with my own perception of what it means to be an artist myself, in that it's okay to kind of want to turn off one day. It's okay to not win a Grammy. It's okay to not put out things every freaking day, or like if I haven't posted on social media, like I'm dropping the artist ball.
Right.
Like what I feel like an artist is nowadays for me, even for my own journey, is like it's someone that every day walks the path and is graceful and merciful with themselves. And I've learned that's a big piece for me to get out of my own way so that I can actually tap into what God has to say through me, you know, as a vessel.
Yeah.
And artistry also is kind of like taking in everything that life offers you and making your own meaning of it, and then sharing that meaning back with people, you know, in whatever season you're in. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it can be. It doesn't have to be inspirational, but it can be. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can. No, I'm just it never will be perfect, but it is. Artistry is almost just like being human and letting that fullness of the human experience be the path that you walk. And just for me, I've learned it's just something that I have to be merciful with myself, so that I don't have to be like, this is what an artist is. Like, and then I'm like, what if I'm not getting to that vision of what it is? And then it's a kind of a vicious, not going to put anything out in that space, and not going to be inspired to pick up a pen in that space. But
absolutely,
if I take that approach of just, yes, this is my life, and I've chosen to be artistic with it. I've chosen to be creative with it. Let me connect. Let me feel. Let me feel the things I'd rather not want to feel, and let them be a whole part of the artistry. And then when the time is right, when the calling is upon thee, like Harley, I got some songs like, then you let it flow, and then you keep going.
I love that.
It's great. I feel like for me, an artist is someone who's willing to fully tap into the flow that's being flowed through them. Because I feel like so many times you can be an interpreter or following the flow of the majority. So you're an artist to other people, but you know deep down you're actually not honoring what you are being given, which may be a little or a lot different.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a true artist is someone who takes enough time out of the day to quiet the noise that stagnates that flow. And even your flow might be dripping today. You might need to do some work to like allow it to flow. But in being able to know what your flow is, I feel like it's something where you're out of control of it in the best way possible. You're not responsible for it. All you have to do is be open. And like what comes through will come through. And in that, I feel like through artistry, it's like, it's not just music. Like there's a way to creatively do the dishes. There's a way to creatively like think how you want to do your day, or creatively show up in a friendship. And like the three words that keep on coming to mind in at least this season of life is create, connect, contribute. And I feel like if an artist is able to tap into that, then however their artistry flows, again, if they get a Grammy or not, if they are a superhero to their kid or to 50 million people around the world, like in whatever way that their flow is going to be, then it's actually ignoring the negative comparison about other people, but is honoring where that flow is leading you tomorrow, where you have no idea that like any of those accolades or opportunities could happen. But in a way, I feel like that's not the point through that. So there's kind of a a divine relationship with the unknown and the willingness and capacity to just show up today and flow and just see what unfolds from there.
Wow. I love that. I completely agree with you guys. Like, for me, what an artist is all of those things. Someone showing up, committing themselves to what they are hearing, what they are seeing, that isn't always tangible. Like, there are a bunch of artists that still don't have their first single out, and their work is still valid. You know, like...
Come on, brother.
There's a bunch of painters that are still painting, and they haven't, like, sold their paintings yet.
Right.
But they're still valid, you know? It's really changing your perspective on even what success looks like for you and your journey. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like for me, artistry is connecting to others in a way that is always there, but we have cluttered it with societal expectations, you know, and like societal pressures and that's what's divided us, is like all of this crap on top of what has always been the truth. And the truth is that we are connected more than we're disconnected, you know? And I feel like music, I feel like the arts in general is such a way that instantly allows people to freedom. And like, even when COVID hit, the first thing people were reaching for was the arts. You know what I mean? Like, soothe me.
Right.
I need the arts in some way. And it's usually the first to get discarded, you know, in the conversations as well. But it's a need. It's just a need for all of us to feel that connection, to feel seen. Like, oh, someone is singing my problems right now. And that makes what I'm dealing with a little bit easier to deal with today. You know what I mean? Like, just someone acknowledging where I'm at in my life. And that to me is true artistry. You know, tapping into someone right where they are and making them feel seen and heard and felt and cared about. Because a lot of the time we don't get that. And there are people who even like they die not really feeling, not really knowing that they have access to that they have that covering, that they have that flow and that reach because of all of this crap that's been put on top of like the through line of that truth, you know? And I feel like when you strip it away, if you were meant to be here by yourself, you would be. But there are so many people on this planet. Why can't we, like, just, you know, for the sake of being a kumbaya person, but like genuinely, I think there are ways to contribute, just like how you were expressing yourself, you know? Like, how am I giving back? How am I making somebody else's life a little bit easier to handle today? How is someone helping me? How am I connecting to others? You know what I mean? How can I let people in a little bit more so that we can just support one another? You know, that's true artistry. It's just a heart to heart.
So true. And it's amazing with you saying that. I totally forgot about when there was silence. There's no live music. That's when, like, I feel like most people remember hearing their first live music post-COVID, which happened sooner in Florida
than most everywhere else.
Happened, right? Got the announcement. All right, this evening I'm performing at Tin Roof. I'll see you. But of other places around the country and around the world, like the first time they heard music is like, oh my God, It's that, now that we're post-COVID, there's the noise is noising.
Right.
There's a lot of music out there. So obviously there's a bit of overstimulus, but when there is nothing, that's when you realize how important, how needed, as you said, music truly is. And the music, in the medicine, it truly is. And amongst the noise, I don't think that's a way to be discouraged about where things are, because I think that's another reason why to go to the depths of what that creative flow is going through, because that is what will speak volumes.
Yeah.
Not being better than XYZ other person or whatever else.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing about art to me is it goes beyond our lifetime.
Yeah.
Even if you have 500 people that listen to your track right now, there could be 10 more people in 150 years, way after we're gone, that's listening to something that we followed through on. What other mediums do you have that type of thing that's like, it's as long as Spotify and Apple Music are still going, it's there. It's not a building that could crumble in an earthquake.
Right.
It's not, I don't know, a physical, tangible thing that can dissipate. I don't know. Music is really, really important. And I feel like these types of reflecting moments are also crucial to just refresh the path.
Absolutely. Reminding yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yo.
Amazing.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I live for the deep conversations. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I really do.
It's it's a beautiful peek into each one of our perspectives, and then you can package it all together and build something beautiful from it. That's what I love about getting to have these conversations with people, is everyone has their own different viewpoint, but we have similarities, and we learn things from each other of how we can continue honoring the craft, the path, the artistry, and what it really is about at the core. What's the point?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you guys for your time. That is our episode for today.
Woohoo!
A big shout out to Harley. Thank you for being here. Harley James Dixon. You can find his music on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere music is distributed. Yeah. He's got a few singles out right now. Slow Mo Rewind, Christmas Countdown.
Yes.
And then a beautiful cover of the Christmas song. And we have some new songs coming very soon. People can find you on Instagram at Harley James Dixon.
It should be across all platforms. I think Twitter, you run out of characters in the handle. So it's like Harley James D.
Harley is Harley.
Yeah.
James Dixon is Dixon.
Dixon.
Yes, with an O. Thank you so much for making time. And this is what the Everflow podcast is about. Having beautiful conversations with incredible people, talking about everything from the surface to as deep as we can go.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful to you because you're our first official guest in our new home here in Los Angeles. And we're honored that you would come and share your heart with us.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. I love it.
For sure.
Let's go.
Come on.
Everflow.
If you guys want to learn more about Everflow Sound, if you want to learn more about the music that we're all making as a team, you can visit www.everflowsound.com. If you want to learn more about the podcast, visit everflowpodcast.com. Tones and I host a gathering here once a month called Time Out. If you want to learn more about that, visit welcometotimeout.com. And thanks again for tuning in to this episode. We'll see you next time.